Habits and Health, Episode 17.
Welcome to the Habits and Health podcast, where we believe creating healthy habits should be easy. Brought to you by an educator and coach for anyone who wants to create a healthier life. Here's your host, Tony Wynyard.
Welcome back to the podcast where we give you ideas on how you can improve your health by the use of the habits that you create. My guest today is Tommy Berrabe. He's a personal trainer and he's gone through quite a journey with his own around nutrition and various areas. So we're going to hear from Tommy in just a few seconds. Hope you enjoyed this episode. If you know anyone who you feel would get some real value from it, please do share it with them. And right now, time to hear from Tommy. Habits and Health, my guest today, Tommy Berrabe. How you doing, Tommy?
I'm good, Tony. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. And we find you in sunny Essex today.
That's right, and it is. The sun is out, shining. We've had a nice bit of weather for the last week or two. And when I checked the weather app the other day, we've got plenty more to come. So, looking good.
And are you a person that likes to get out in the sun?
I am, especially, now realising the benefits of it, being out in nature and obviously the vitamin D from the sun as well, So yes, more so now than ever, I like being out in the sun.
And you just said now that you realise, so what did that mean? So there was a time when you didn't have the awareness that you have now? Definitely,
yeah. I mean, we all cover up, don't we? Especially in the winter and, we tend to stay in more, but when you start to realise, the knock-on effect from doing these extra little things, like we spoke about before we got started, looking after some key aspects of our health, we realise there's all these little things that can give us that extra edge. And, the sun, the vitamin D, powerful antiviral, powerful antibacterial is so good in so many ways.
And so how did you come to this awareness? Was it from reading or through something you had attended somewhere? What happened?
Yeah, it was reading, it was research, it was just general learning over the years, I always knew there was something about it. But yeah, just reading and research. And even through the winter now, I do supplement with vitamin D. And yeah, I believe it's been a helper in me, preventing illness, helping in prevention of some of the illnesses I used to get, especially chest infections as well.
So what kind of age did those sort of illnesses start?
Oh, to be honest, Tony, I was in and out of hospitals from the ages of 6 and 7 years old with breathing problems. And these things all got treated with your typical antibiotics. And I believe that they were possibly what led me to more problems going forward in life as well. I was in and out of hospitals a lot when I was younger with a lot of different problems.
And when you say breathing, was that sort of asthma related or something different?
Yeah, it was asthma, sinuses. I remember as a child, right? I would have like these sneezing fits, and honestly, this is no exaggeration. I'd do it so much I would actually count them. It was like over 50 times in one go. Loads of tissue, just so many tissues that I was getting through. And this was just as a child, and obviously back then I wasn't, switched on about anything or what the cause could be. It just seemed normal to me, Tony.
Yeah.
And growing up, this exasperated more. It got worse and worse, and I had a lot of sinus problems and a lot of chest infections as well.
So I'm guessing it sounds like you had some kind of like allergies and irritants and so on.
Yeah, quite possibly. And I was living on the typical diet, that I was brought up on, cereal or toast for breakfast, sandwiches for lunch, nothing but processed foods, really. The only vegetables are really with a Sunday roast dinner, which is, I think, what it's like for so many people right now. That was the typical diet. And, sometimes I walk along now and I think back to when I was a child, and then I think to myself, God, remember when Mum used to take you for a walk to the shop and you just felt so lethargic and fatigued, and I'd end up sitting down on the pavement and my mum would be going to me, come on. And then it was normal to me. But now I look back at it and think, all right, so I'm eating cereal for breakfast and then I'm feeling so lethargic and fatigued, Diet has a huge role to play. And I think there was another big factor in some of the allergies and problems I had as a child. Now, I do believe that our health comes from the mother. When we are born, we take on a lot of the mother's bacteria. And I feel as though that is going to set us up and either give us good health or possibly start us off with poor health, or be a contributing factor in what starts us off with poor health.
Mm-hmm. Well, and so what was it that led you to realise that you had a say in your health, that you could make a change? What was it that happened?
I spent so many years going back and forward to doctors. And, it was one medication after another. And I was going round and round in circles, getting nowhere fast. Some medications might cover up the symptoms for a short amount of time, but it was never actually, the be-all and end-all. It was never sorting the problem. And I got to the end of my tether. I was sick to death of it. And I started looking into, because I'd already become a personal trainer, and I was walking around feeling a complete mess. And I was thinking to myself, how can you coach other people to, better health and better fitness, etc., when you are not a picture of health yourself? And things got worse and worse and worse up into my 20s. One day I walked into a doctor's office with a question in mind. Now, I didn't really want to ask this question because I wasn't sure if I'd like the answer, but I thought I'd go for it anyway. Mm-hmm. Doctor, could any of my problems have anything to do with what I may be eating? It's fair to say that I walked out of that doctor's with some short-term relief, because the answer was a straight no. No, it couldn't have anything to do with what you're eating. And I went back home, straight back into my comfort zone, continued the way of life that I was living. And it took me years of research and looking into other things, trial and error, cutting things out of my diet to actually start to get somewhere.
But what was it that made you ask that question in the first place?
What was it that made me ask that question? I mean, look, I was at the end of my tether. I was having all these. I was on all these different steroids, these different antibiotics, and I don't know. Maybe I'd heard something somewhere, that maybe diet could play a role. But even then, it seemed a bit far fetched to me. And if it seemed far fetched to me, then what must it seem like to, everyone else?
So how did you feel, or what was your reaction when the doctor said, no, it's nothing to do with food? Did you just think, oh, well, yeah, I was just wrong? Or did you question?
It was like a relief, because then I could go, I didn't have to cut my sugar out. I didn't have to stop eating the way I was eating. I could go home and carry on eating chocolate and cakes and biscuits and all the things that I loved and I craved so much. I couldn't live without these things. And then one day I decided to, cut back on the sugar a bit, and I got some pretty instant relief from doing so. And it made me realise that with more of the same, I could probably improve even more,
And so then you made a conscious effort to start changing what you were eating, and you were getting some good results, and it just continued from there?
Yeah, so I was working as a PT Monday to Saturday, and I was already in pretty poor health as it was, but at the time I was quite enjoying going out clubbing on Saturday nights. And Sunday I might be a little bit hungover, and I'd go to the supermarket and I'd buy everything that I wanted. Whatever I was craving while I had a hangover, I'd buy, and I felt pretty good the next day. But it was the following days after that when, a bit like a little volume switch, Tony, that volume switch turned up. Everything that I was suffering with got worse and worse and worse. And I started to equate it to how I was living and what was going in. And at first, it wasn't easy to actually come to terms with the fact that, my gosh, I might have to cut out some of this alcohol. I might have to stop drinking. I might have to cut back on some of this sugar. But if it was going to provide me with some relief, I was willing to do it, because I was suffering so bad. And it wasn't just one thing. it was a whole list of things that I was suffering with, and something had to change.
So what changes did you make then?
Like I said, I started introducing more vegetables because between the ages, I mean, let me go back. So I lived with my mum until I was about 10. I won't completely go into the reason why I moved out, but I moved in with my dad when I was 10 years old. Moved out of my mum's and in with my dad's when I was 10 years old. And things changed. He would ask me what I wanted every week to drink, and he would ask me what I wanted to eat. And my reply would be, Dad, can you just get me a case of 24 cans of Coke, right? And that is all I drank from the age of 10 to about 18. It's like I was addicted to the stuff. I would get up in the morning for school. I'd put 3 cans of Coke in my bag. I'd go to school. I'd drink one on the way, and I'd drink a couple more throughout the day, and then get home and have more. And I tell you something, them 24 cans lasted from Monday to Thursday, and then I'd be going to the shop to buy bottles of Coke then. That is all I lived off of. And so living with my dad was different. I could eat what I want. I could drink what I want. I could go to bed when I want. It was great as a kid, but this had let's say this had a huge effect on me growing up. And obviously I wasn't in the greatest health as it was as a child. So I've just added to that. So yeah, I think change started to realise, and cutting out some of these things and adding more vegetables in was the first step. Because, if someone said to me, right, you've got to change this, and this, it might have been too much too soon. It might have been my downfall, but one thing at a time. And I remember when I was about 26, I decided, right, I'm having 2 takeaways a day at the moment. I'm just going to chuck a portion of vegetables on the side of that plate. Now, it might have been a kebab and a portion of vegetables and, far from perfect, but it was a start. And, I'd never really ate many vegetables. And, it was the start of something good.
And so how long did it take before you noticed the difference?
I'd say pretty soon after. I noticed things with my energy and things like that, but these were just small changes. There was one day when I decided to completely cut out all sugars and all processed foods, and I can tell you now that I actually got worse for the first week. And I sort of knew this would happen. There's a guy named Doug Kaufman, and he's been huge in getting me to better health. He's got a book called The Fungus Link, where he talks about fungus. See, in our gut, we have a lot of different microbes living. We have trillions of different microorganisms living in our gut. Some are bacteria, some are good, some are not so good, and some are fungus. Now, antibiotics kill bacteria, right? Now, if you think of some of the good bacteria in our guts, those good bacteria are responsible for making more of the things that we need. Think B12 for energy. Think serotonin for the happy chemical, right? And I was always fatigued. I was always unhappy. I was depressed a lot. And I think by introducing more of these vegetables, I started to feed these organisms down there in the gut for them to make more of these things. But I think also I'd killed off a lot of the good bacteria with antibiotics and allowed the fungus to overrun and to multiply. And the thing with fungus is, while it's supposed to be down there, when it gets a bit out of control, I believe, it can multiply quicker than what bacteria can. And fungus has been shown to cause any number of misery in any tissue in the body, especially if it can get through the gut and into the bloodstream. So, yeah, I believe this was a key factor in some of the things that I had going on. So, following an antifungal diet, as it were, was the proof in the pudding for me, because the depression went, the sinus problems went. Everything started to clear up, and it was a miracle, Tony. I just wanted to shout it from the rooftops. And then everyone that I see around me, family and friends that were suffering, I just wanted to help them with this and suggest, that could this be the problem, And for me, I was at the end of my tether, so I was willing to do whatever it took And now I know not everyone's like that, not everyone. And I was trying to run a business as well. So without my health, I couldn't put everything I needed to into my business. I couldn't show up every day. I couldn't be as productive as I wanted to. And this is why I help business owners now. Not just because that is where I was some time ago, suffering as a business owner, but their motivation is higher. They need to be looking, thinking, feeling and functioning at least as close to peak performance as possible for their business to thrive.
We hope you're enjoying this episode of the Habits and Health podcast, where we believe creating healthy habits should be easy. If you are looking for deep support to create the health and life you want, we invite you to consider one-on-one coaching sessions with Tony. Coaching sessions give you personalised guidance to fit your unique goals and life situation. Only a limited number of spots are available, but you can easily get started by booking a free introductory call at tonywynyard.com. Now back to the show.
In what way do you help them?
So, like we spoke about before the show, we look at the different areas in their life, their nutrition, their hydration, sleep and movement, and we start to tackle those areas, and at a pace that is good for them. But, usually the ones that I'm taking on as clients, they are ready. They are at the end of their tether, and they are at the point where if they don't improve their health now, then, their business may suffer on every level. So they are fully ready. So we tackle their gut health and we tackle the four: nutrition, hydration, sleep and movement.
And do you do that in by coaching or in a group format, or how is it?
Yes, I do it as coaching, online coaching, 1-to-1 is what I'm doing with those.
And so what do you enjoy about doing that?
I love seeing people realise that, when they have their aha moment, if you want to call it that, they're coming to me, they're miserable, they've got all these things going on, and some may be a bit sceptical about the holistic approach, the diet, the lifestyle, the movement, but when they start to realise that they're turning that volume switch down, some of them are so bad, they're at an 8 or a 9. Whatever their problems may be, they could be at an 8 or a 9. They're having to use so many things every day, coffee and sugar, just to get through the day, and their problems are worsening. But when they start, the first week, might be quite tough, but after a while, they start to turn that volume switch down. And I just love seeing people feel better and realise what I realised some time ago, that diet, movement, lifestyle is absolutely everything.
So you mentioned that some of them are quite cynical at the beginning. So in that case, how were you able to get them to work with you in the first place if they were quite cynical?
The thing is that they've been sort of round and round in circles, a bit like I was some time ago. And like I was some time ago, I was a bit sceptical about the diet side of it as well. And I remember when I started following what I said, an antifungal diet, it was sort of make or break. I thought, if this doesn't work, if diet doesn't work for me, I don't know where I'm going to go. And I think that's sort of the point where they are at. But, like I say, after a week or so, they start to notice they're feeling, there's no cure after a week, but they start to notice and they're feeling a bit better, and they want more of the same. They want more of the same, and they're noticing it in their business as well. The changes they're making is having a direct impact on everything else in their life. So they're more than happy to continue with more of the same.
And so before the whole pandemic, was this more sort of face-to-face, and now it's online, or what, has it changed?
No, I was doing this part. See, I do face-to-face coaching, and also do online coaching, but that for me is sort of a separate thing. I do this online coaching, helping business owners with their gut health, and the face-to-face coaching, more of the clients with my face-to-face coaching really are, they want some fat loss, they want some weight loss, and obviously I'm trying to help them with the health side of it, but they're not at that point where some of my online clients are, where they're willing to do whatever it takes. They're willing to change whatever's needed to be changed. They're just here for the exercise, a lot of them,
From some of the things you mentioned, you've been reading a lot, I get the impression you kind of listen to a lot of podcasts. So are you always constantly looking to kind of educate, inform yourself to further develop your knowledge in these areas?
100%, Tony. I eat, live and breathe the lifestyle, the knowledge, every single day I'm learning, every single day, learning off of doctors. I'm even, everything that I believe, I will look at both sides of the coin. I'll look at the sort of doctors, what they're saying that are for it, but I'll also look at the opinions against what I believe as well, and take what I want to take from it. But yeah, every single day I'm learning, soaking up this knowledge, and I love it. I absolutely love it. Anything to do with gut health I'm absolutely passionate about it, Tony.
So that's an interesting take. So you like to look at both sides. So have you, in the last couple of years, can you remember any time where you had a real sort of firm belief in some area or something, and then new information came to light or came into your world and you realized that belief wasn't as firm as you previously thought it was?
Yeah, definitely. When it comes to things like, foods and intolerances, so many people, think they've got to cut these vegetables out. Let me give you an example. I had a food intolerance test done about 10 years ago, and they said, right, you're intolerant to wheat, you're intolerant to dairy, you're intolerant to tomatoes, to eggs, to this food, to that food, and it was most of the foods that I was eating. So, back then, my advice to someone then might have been, look, if any food is causing you a problem, you want to cut that out, stay as far away from it as you can and never go back to it. But now, after learning a bit more, I'm sort of more coming from a place where if we can fix our gut and repair it a bit more, whether that be with diet, with supplements, with nourishing the bacteria that live in there, then we may be able to reintroduce some of those foods in time, because there are millions of different types of bacteria living in our gut, and they don't all want one type of food. I'm slowly learning that as much diversity of plants that we can eat is going to feed a wide variety of the bacteria that live down there, and promote better health for us.
Can you think of any of the people that you've been working with where there's been like a real sort of success story where they were very doubtful and their life is like really changed since working with you?
100%. So I've got one lady, she's a business owner, and when she first come to me, she was going to Slimming World every week, weighing herself, and she started to tell me more about her health, and she was back and forward to doctors. She was going to the hospital, had a camera down her throat. They was looking for so many things and could never find anything. And I noticed she was, eating a typical diet, sandwiches or bread for lunch, a lot of pasta in there as well. And we slowly worked towards introducing some more vegetables in her diet while cutting back on those grains a little bit. And the relief she felt from that was tremendous. And right now, she is actually making a lot of her own breads and things like that are, feeding the bacteria in her gut and starving the fungus. And she has not had a gut problem for a very long time. And the gut problems was something she was suffering with. That was her ailment at the time. She's been a great success story.
And so you talked about how the holistic approach, and you realize it's not just about nutrition, or it's not just about sleep. So how do you, when you start working with someone and it's obvious that they have multiple issues, but you can't address all of those issues at the same time. So how do you normally go about slowly trying to change all the various things that require change?
That's right, Tony. Yeah. So many people are suffering with sleep problems. So many people are suffering with migraines, this problem, that problem. And so many people are suffering with even going to the toilet regular enough. And this is a huge part of the healing, I believe. And the one thing I start to tackle straight away is their gut health, because I've seen so many people that if we can start to heal the gut, everything else falls into place. Now, I spoke about some of the things that the bacteria make in our guts, serotonin being one of them, otherwise known as the happy chemical. 90% of our serotonin is produced in our gut, in our stomach, and there's melatonin if you've heard of that, and serotonin is the precursor to melatonin. Melatonin is like the sleep chemical. Without adequate serotonin, we may not be producing enough melatonin. Without that, we may be struggling to sleep. And just, focusing on the gut can have a knock-on effect on so many different things. And, when we are not moving our bowels regularly enough, we are potentially full up with toxins because we're coming into contact with toxins every day in our food, in the air we are breathing, in the skin products we are using. We're putting them in all the time. And our bodies are quite well equipped to deal with this. But if we are not removing them, then we are potentially holding on to them, inviting more of the things that we don't want, whatever that may be. People can fill in the blank for themselves, because I believe, it doesn't matter what name you want to put on something, what ailment, what disease, whatever it is. You can put a name on it, but in many cases, you're gonna go about fixing it the same way, by looking after those four: nutrition, hydration, sleep and movement, and looking after the gut, getting the bowels moving. It's not just as easy to say to someone you need to be going to the toilet more. It's, getting them slowly up in their fibre intake, getting them moving a little bit more like that, and I find that as soon as they start moving them a bit more, the clarity comes back, they get a clearer head, the headache everything just starts to go in the right direction. They turn down their volume switch.
Out of those four areas, which do you find typically most people are doubtful about, of the people you've been working with?
I think especially the business owners, when they first come, for them, it's almost like there's not enough time in the day, and they're already stressing about their business because of how they're super stressed. Not only have they got the stress from their business, but they've got all the stress from how they're feeling on a day-to-day basis. So for them, taking time out of the day to get their movement, the nutrition part of it, it's not just eating the food, it's standing there cooking the food and washing up and even going out and sourcing the food and, remembering to drink water and clearing up your sleep hygiene and maybe getting a bit more sleep or a bit better quality sleep. It's all time consuming. And I think initially that can be quite scary for them because there's already not enough hours in the day. But, if we don't make time for our health, sooner or later we'll have to make time for illness, but they're already having to make time for illness. So, they are ready to start making time for their health. But yeah, it can be a bit daunting at first, thinking, they've got to take more time for cooking and shopping and things like that. But yeah, I think that's one little obstacle to start with for some people.
What you've mentioned a couple of times since we started that you've been reading many different things. Can you think of any books you've read recently that have really moved you in any way? Yeah,
there's actually one by a doctor that I'm reading now. It's called Fibre Fueled. It's actually such an amazing book. There's so much great research and great studies in it, and he goes right into the microbiome. Now, for anyone who's listening who doesn't know what the microbiome is like the makeup of all the microbes living in and on us. And this doctor even speaks about, even on the end of your thumb, if you look at the end of your thumb, there are more microorganisms living on the end of your thumb than there is probably the population of the UK. 39 trillion is the number of microbes, apparently, that could be in and on us, on our skin, in our mouths, and many of them reside inside of our gut. And he goes right into this and talks about plant diversity, and I think it is a great book for anyone who wants to.
Unfortunately, we lost the sound. There was a problem on the platform that we were using for the recording, and so I didn't realise that the sound cut just before the end of the episode. So if you do want to contact Tommy, you can go to Facebook and type in Tommy Berrabe, which is Berrabe, or if you go to facebook.com/TOMMY.BERRABE, that link will be in the show notes, as will be the transcript, and you can find out more information if you go to the Facebook page. If you do know anyone who would really get some value from some of the information that Tommy shared, please do share the episode with them. And next week is episode 18, and it is with Catherine Britton. She is the co-author of a book called Character Strengths Matter, which is all about the VIA character strengths. And we go into a lot of depth around character strengths and how they can help you, and about positive psychology and many of the aspects around positive psychology and Martin Seligman and so on. So that's next week, episode 18 with Catherine Britton. Hope you have a fantastic week. See you next week.
Thanks for tuning in to the Habits and Health Podcast, where we believe creating healthy habits should be easy. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcast app. Sign up for email updates and learn about coaching and workshop opportunities at tonywinyard.com. See you next time on the Habits and Health Podcast.